July 9, 1944. Royal Naval Hospital, Seaforth. A 48-year-old captain was dying from exhaustion. His face looked skeletal. Officers who had served beside him for years could hardly recognize the worn-out man in the hospital bed. Only 2 days earlier, he had received 2 letters from the Admiralty. The first confirmed his son was dead, lost when the submarine HMS vanished. The second ordered his group to sail the next morning for combat duty. Fate vening, Captain Frederic John Walker felt faint, heard a buzzing noise in his head, and collapsed. He died from cerebral thrombosis without ever waking again. The Admiralty officially blamed his death on conditions of naval service, on overwork, on exhaustion. What they did not include in the report was this: Captain Walker had destroyed 20 German U-boats under his command, more than any other Allied surface ship commander ever. His flagship HMS Starling took part in 14 confirmed kills, earning its place as the most successful anti-submarine ship ever made. In one 19-day patrol during February 1944, his group sank 6 U-boats, including 3 in just 15 hours. The man who more than anyone else won the Battle of the Atlantic worked himself to death doing it. And the question no one asks is this: how did a single British captain in one ship with tactics the Royal Navy first dismissed as reckless manage to break Germany's U-boat force when hundreds of other commanders could not score even 1 kill? By March 1943, Britain was losing the Battle of the Atlantic. U-boats were sending merchant ships to the bottom faster than Allied shipyards could build new ones. In the first 20 days of March alone, German submarines sank 97 Allied ships totaling more than 500,000 tons. The numbers were brutal. Britain needed to import 1 million tons of supplies each week just to stay alive. U-boats were destroying that amount every 3 weeks. Churchill later admitted the U-boat threat was the only thing that truly scared him during the whole war. If the Atlantic convoys failed, Britain would starve. The Soviet Union would fall without American aid. Operation Overlord would be impossible without the huggy buildup of men and materials in Britain. The basic problem was not locating U-boats. It was killing them. By 1943, convoy escorts carried a SDIC, the British sonar that could detect submarines up to 3,000 yards away. Ships had radar that could see a surfaced U-boat at 3 miles. They carried depth charges, explosive canisters that detonated at certain depths. But a SDIC only worked if the ship moved slowly under 15 knots. And a SDIC searched forward while depth charges were dropped behind. This created a blind zone of about 300 yards where the escort lost contact with the submarine exactly as it reached the attack point. Skilled U-boat captains used this gap and made sharp evasive turns the moment contact vanished. The statistics proved the point. Standard depth charge attacks had only a 6% kill rate. Most escorts went through the whole war without sinking even a new boat. Even successful ships usually scored only 1 to 3 kills across 5 years of fighting. Early in the war, Type 7C U-boats could dive deeper than the first British depth charge settings. Throughout fewer, they used depth, battery endurance, and full 3-dimensional movement, while surface ships could only chase them in 2 dimensions. Admiral Karl Dönitz, commander of Germany's U-boat fleet, understood the numbers perfectly. If each U-boat could sink more tonnage than it cost Germany to build before it was lost, Germany would win the war of attrition. By early 1943, he was winning that equation. The Royal Navy tried everything. Destroyers escorted convoys, but they were too fast, and their propeller noise drowned out a SDIC. Corvettes were slow enough but lacked endurance and strength in heavy seas. Escort carriers gave air cover but were few and vulnerable. Nothing fixed the main problem. Once you located a U-boat, how did you actually kill it? British convoy losses during the first 3 years of war told a grim story. September 1939 to December 1941, 1,564 merchant ships sunk. In 1942 alone, 1,160 ships lost. Each ship carried food, fuel, ammunition, planes, and tanks to Thebatom. Each loss pushed Britain closer to starvation and defeat. The man who solved this deadly problem should never have been at sea. Frederic John Walker was born June 3, 1896, in Plymouth to Commander Frederic Murray Walker of the Royal Navy. He entered Osborne Naval College at Thurton, finishing fourth in order of merit out of 62 midshipmen in April 1913, winning the King's Medal, an excellent start that made his later career slow down confusing. Walker served through the First World War on battleship HMS Ajax and destroyers Mermaid and Sarpedon. Between the wars, he volunteered for the new anti-submarine school HMS Osprey at Portland. Anti-submarine warfare was considered unfashionable and offered little chance of promotion. By 1937, he had reached commander and served as experimental commander at Osprey. But his career had completely stalled. The mystery of Walker's pre-war career is this: why was an officer of such clear talent passed over for captain and set for early retirement as war neared? The answer seems to be his personality. Walker was outspoken and quickly bored by peacetime routine. His seniors saw an officer frustrated by pointless tasks, unable to tolerate fools. His fitness reports showed friction with peacetime naval bureaucracy. The outbreak of war saved him from early retirement, but even then the Navy kept him on land. In 1940, as Operations Staff Officer to Vice Admiral Ramsey, Walker helped plan Operation Dynamo, the Dunkirk evacuation that saved 338,000 Allied soldiers. He received a mention in dispatches, but it was not until October 1941, more than 2 years after the war began, that the Royal Navy's top anti-submarine expert finally got a ship of his own. His first combat command proved his superiors completely wrong. Taking the 36th Escort Group and sloop HMS Storkto convoy HG-76 from Gibraltar in December 1941, Walker organized what became the first real Allied convoy victory. His group sank 4 U-boats during the battle, and Walker personally depth-charged and rammed U-574, Music. After being accidentally struck by another escort, he calmly signaled, "That's nothing. You should see what they've done to my stern." But one successful convoy was not enough to change doctrine. The Royal Navy still assigned escorts to protect ships, not hunt submarines. Walker wanted something different. In early 1943, he offered a bold idea to Commander-in-Chief Western Approaches, Admiral Sir Max Horton: give him 6 top-line sloops with the best modern gear, operating with a roaming commission, free to actively hunt and destroy U-boats instead of simply escorting convoys. Horton agreed. The second support group was created. The ship that would become Walker's main killer came out of Fairfield Shipbuilding Yard in Govan, Scotland, on October 14, 1942, HMS Starling. Pennant number U-66 was a modified Black Swan-class sloop, one of the most capable anti-submarine ships ever built. Her displacement told Astery of careful engineering: 1,350 tons standard, 1,900 tons fully loaded, a length of 299 feet 6 in, a beam of 38 feet 6 in, and a maximum draft of 11 feet 6 in. She was bigger than the original Black Swan design. That extra foot of beam gave far better stability in the rough North Atlantic, crucial when crews had torload 500 lb depth charges on rolling decks. Her speed and endurance balanced attack power with long-range operations. Twin Parsons-geared steam turbines produced 4,300 shaft horsepower, pushing her to 19.5 to 20 knots fast enough to catch any surface Type 7 U-boat. Her 7,500 nautical mile range at 12 knots meant she could operate across the Atlantic without refueling, chasing contacts for days instead of hours. Her weapons focused on destroying submarines. Her main guns were 6 quick-firing 4-inch Mark 16 dual-purpose guns and 3 twin turrets. Anti-aircraft defense included a quadruple 2-pounder pom-pom and 12 20-Amorlican cannons. But her real killing strength came from anti-submarine weapons: 110 depth charges, 4 throwers, 2 stern racks, and most important, the Hedgehog forward-firing mortar. Hedgehog changed everything. Unlike depth charges that blew up at set depths whether they hit anything or not, Hedgehog rounds exploded only on contact. No explosion meant the U-boat was missed, but a SDIC contact stayed unbroken. The numbers were clear. Standard depth charge attacks had only about a 5 to 7% success rate. Hedgehog attacks achieved 20 to 25% success, roughly 3 to 5 times more effective. Her detection tools gave Walker unmatched awareness. Type 144 Aztec could find submerged U-boats at 2,000 to 3,000 yards. Type 271 centimetric radar could detect a surfaced U-boat at 3 miles, or even a periscope at 900 yards. The HFDF radio direction finder, nicknamed Huff Duff by crews, picked up submarine transmissions, letting Walker hunt U-boats by their own messages. If you're enjoying this deep dive into how British engineering and tactical innovation defeated the U-boat threat, consider subscribing. It supports the channel. The design logic behind choosing sloops over destroyers for anti-submarine work was simple. A sloop reached half a destroyer's speed on only 1/10 the horsepower. But a SDIC was useless above 15 to 18 knots anyway, removing the destroyer's speed advantage. What mattered was endurance, seakeeping, and weapon space. In these areas, the Black Swans were superior. Walker took command of Starling in April 1943 and immediately began the most intense training program any escort group had ever undergone. He created a system of prearranged signal codes. Buttercup stern meant one thing. Raspberry port meant another. His captains learned to almost read his mind, understanding his plans from minimal communication. The tactic that would make Walker famous was the creeping attack. The core problem of anti-submarine warfare was geometric. ASDIC looked forward while depth charges were dropped behind, creating a blind zone off about 300 yards where contact was lost just as the attack started. Walker's creeping attack removed this weakness entirely. The directing ship, usually Starling, held a SDIC contact from 1,500 yards, staying still and clearly audible to the U-boat. A second ship moved toward the target silently with Aztec turned off, creeping at only 5 knots. The directing ship gave constant voice guidance on course adjustments. When the tacking ship was directly over the target, Walker ordered the attack. The depth charges landed without warning. The U-boat's first sign was the explosions. The tactic required exceptional coordination, long practice, and great patience. Walker's hunts often lasted 8 to 18 hours, using 150 to 266 depth charges. But Willie ordinary depth charge attacks achieved only about a 5 to 7% kill chance. Walker's coordinated methods produced lasting results. The plaster attack gave another option when enough escorts were available. 3 or more sloops approached in a line abreast, directed by a 4th ship behind them. All dropped depth charges at the same time, flooding the entire target zone. Any evasive turn by the U-boat put it under another ship's pattern. Walker added the hold-down tactic. keeping the U-boat submerged below depth charge range until low air and drained batteries forced it to surface, where gunfire could finish it. His written instructions to his group showed the philosophy plainly. Our purpose is to kill, and all officers must fully develop a spirit of fierce offense. No matter how many convoys we escort safely, we have failed unless we destroy U-boats. The second support group's original lineup included 6 modified Black Swan-class sloops. HMS Starling served as Walker's flagship. HMS Wild Goose under Lieutenant Commander Dejas, HMS Wren under Commander R.M. Aubrey, HMS Woodpecker under Lieutenant Commander Reg Huguenin, HMS Kite under Lieutenant Commander W.F.R.C. Grieve, HMS Signet under Lieutenant Commander F.B. Proudfoot. HMS Magpie joined in October 1943. The difference from convoy escort duty was essential. Convoy escorts were defensive, had to remain with the convoy, had only short time to engage, and were tied to convoy speed and course. Support groups were offensive, free to chase for hours or days, could maintain contact for 15 hours or more, moved between convoys as needed, and operated independently under Western Approach's command. The killing began on June 1 to 2, 1943, when Starling destroyed U-202, a Type VIIC, southeast of Cape Farewell after a 15-hour hunt, the longest pursuit in the Atlantic campaign so far. Commander Gunner Poser took his boat down to 800 feet, deeper than British charges settings. Walker waited, reportedly saying, "We will sit it out. I believeth this fellow will surface at midnight." Poser surfaced just before midnight. Walker lit him up with star shells. Poser shot himself rather than surrender. 30 of the 50 crew survived. On June 24, 1943, Starling sank U-119, a Type XB mine layer, in the Bay of Biscay by ramming and depth charges, killing all 57 Germans that same day. The group sank U-449. Starling was damaged in the ramming and went into refit. The July 30, 1943 action in the Bay of Biscay showed Walker's aggressive mindset. Meeting 3 surfaced U-boats traveling together for shared anti-aircraft protection. Walker raised the signal General Chase, a signalist in only a few major fleet battles, giving his captains full freedom to chase and destroy at will. In just 10 minutes, his group destroyed U-462, a Type 14 milk cow supply boat, and U-504, a Type IX C-40, a Sunderland flying boat, sank the third. Germany lost 2 of its vital supply submarines in a single action. On November 6, 1943, the group destroyed U-226 and U-842 east of Newfoundland in Honey Day, killing all 107 German sailors aboard both submarines. Then came the patrol that entered naval history as greatest concentrated anti-submarine success of the war. January 29, 1944. Walker's second support group sailed from Liverpool for what became known as the 6-in-1 Trip Patrol. The group included Starling, Wild Goose, Woodpecker, Magpie, and Kite. They headed for the western approaches, the part of the Atlantic, where U-boats waited to intercept convoys coming to Britain. January 31st, the group found U-592 on the surface at 5020 north, 1729 west. U-592 crash-dived immediately. Walker began a creeping attack. Wild Goose and Magpie coordinated the kill. 49 German submariners died. 1 week passed with no contacts. Then came February 8th. At 4:30 in the afternoon, Huff Duff heard a U-boat radio message. Walker's group closed in at top speed. At 8 o'clock that evening, radar contact at 49-2 north, 1658 west. U-762 was on the surface charging batteries. Woodpecker and Wild Goose attacked. The submarine crash-dived. Walker directed a combined assault. U-762 was destroyed. 51 Germans died. Walker did not stop. His HF operators picked up another nearby transmission. He knew what this meant. Several U-boats were gathering, probably forming a patrol line for a convoy. February 9th, 0230 hours. Contact U-734, submerged at 4943 north, 1623 west. Wild Goose held a SDIC contact. Starling crept insolently. At 0315, Walker gave the attack order. Depth charges hit around the U-boat. Oil and wreckage rose to the surface. 49 more Germans dead. Walker should have stopped. His ships had been at action stations nearly 10 hours. Crews were worn out. Depth charge supplies wearing low. He continued. 800 hours that same morning, another contact U-238, also submerged at 4945 north, 167 west. This U-boat's captain was experienced. He dodged the first attack, went deep, and released bold decoys that created false SDIC readings. Walker coordinated Kite, Magpie, and Starling in a plaster attack. The hunt lasted 8 hours, with 15 separate attacks. The three ships fired 266 depth charges in total. At 1600 hours, U-238 surfaced, its crew abandoning the boat. 50 Germans died. Starling had used nearly all of her depth charges. Still, the patrol went on. February 11th. U-424 was destroyed by Wild Goose and Woodpecker at 50 north. 1814 minutes west, another 50 Germans killed. On February 19th, the group found U-264 at 4831 minutes north, 22.5 minutes west. This U-boat carried then U snorkel breathing tube, allowing long underwater endurance. After a long hunt, Woodpecker and Starling forced her to surface. All 52 crew lived and were taken prisoner. Captain Hartwig Lux reportedly told his men before surfacing, "If we must die, we die for Greater Germany. 3 cheers for our Führer." Instead, they were captured, questioned, and revealed details of snorkel equipment to British intelligence. 6 U-boats destroyed in 19 days. 299 German sailors killed, 52 captured to 301 casualties from one patrol by one group. The cost came the next day, February 20th. HMS Woodpecker was hit by U-256 acoustic-guided torpedo. She was taken in tow but sank in an Atlantic storm on February 27th. All crew survived, the group's only major loss under Walker's command. Walker returned to Liverpool on February 25th to a hero's welcome, but he gave himself no rest. By March 15th, he was at sea again. March 15th, 1944. U-653 destroyed in a joint. Attack with aircraft from carrier HMS Vindex. March 29th. U-961 destroyed by Starling alone while escorting. Arctic convoy JW58. May 6th. -473 sunk after a 3-day searchant. 18-hour hunt with Walker correctly predicting where the U-boat would appear. How does Walker's record compare to other submarine hunters? The numbers show what made him exceptional. USS England, a Buckley-class destroyer escort, set the Pacific record with 6 Japanese submarines in 12 days in May 1944, prompting Admiral Ernest King to say, "There'll always be an England in the United States Navy." An amazing burst of success, but Walker's total was still far higher. HMS Hesperus under well-known Donald McIntyre achieved 5 confirmed U-boat kills. Considered outstanding for a single escort, Canadian forces helped destroy 14 U-boats across, 1, 2, 3 corvettes fewer than Walker accomplished with one ship. The wider statistics show why Walker's record stands out. Average depth charge success rate was only 5 to 7%. Most escorts fought the entire war without a single confirmed kill. Even successful ships usually got only a net of 3 kills total. Black Swan-class sloops as a whole 37 ships destroyed 2 9 U-boats. Walker's single ship accounted for half of that. The structural advantage of support groups partly explains Walker's results. Free from convoy duty, his ships could chase U-boats until destruction instead of leaving to guard merchant ships. But other support groups existed, and none matched his performance. The difference was Walker's tactics, his aggressive mindset, and his relentless training. While German documents rarely mention Walker by name, records focused on operations, not enemy officers, his results deeply affected German morale and strategy. Admiral Karl Dönitz addressed U-boat losses directly in his war logs. After Black May 1943, when 43 U-boats were lost, including several to Walker's group, Dönitz wrote, "A terrible total which came as a hard and unexpected blow. We have lost the Battle of the Atlantic." He halted operations on May 24, 1943. German responses to support group pressure included group surface transits U-boats crossing the Bay of Biscay together with extra anti-aircraft guns. This strategy collapsed on July 30, 1943, when Walker caught 3 of them at once. They introduced the snorkel for long underwater running, though U-264's capture gave the Allies details about it. They practiced extreme deep diving, pushing U-boats down to 700 to 800 feet beyond safe limits. They used Pillenwerfer decoys called Bold, chemical devices that released bubble clouds to confuse Aztec. U-boat survivor reports show the German view at crew level. The interrogation report from U-264's capture describes her final hours. It states, U-264 stayed submerged for some time after her contact with the convoy. Around noon on the 19th of February, she rose to about 20 meters to send a signal. She was then found by a group of destroyers, which immediately began a long attack. The U-boat dived deeper, releasing several SBT charges. She could not shake her pursuers, and depth charges continued falling on her. The February 1944 patrol killed 249 German submariners and captured 52. The German U-boat arm eventually suffered a 75% casualty rate, the highest of any German service. Of 859 U-boats that went on war patrols, 648 were lost. 429 produced no survivors at all. Walker's final missions took place during D-Day. For 2 weeks in June 1944, his group guarded the invasion fleet from U-boat attack. Not a single U-boat broke through his screen, but the physical strain on him was severe. Officers noticed him pausing, searching for words when giving signals or orders. His face looked hollow, his body thinned out to his shipmates, worried by the change in him toward the end. He seemed far older than his 47 years. On July 7, 1944, Walker received 2 letters from the Admiralty. The first confirmed that Hiss and Timothy, lost when submarine HMS Parthian disappeared in August 1943, was officially declared dead. The second ordered his group to sail the next day. That night, he felt sick, dizzy, with a humming sound in his head. He was taken to the Royal Naval Hospital at SEAFORTH. Captain Frederic John Walker died of cerebral thrombosis on July 9, 1944. Admiralty attributed his death to overwork and exhaustion from naval service. He was 48 years old. His funeral at Liverpool Cathedral drew nearly 1,000 mourners. Since his group had already gone to sea, most naval personnel in the procession were from the Royal Canadian Navy, His coffin was placed aboard HMS Hesperus for burial at sea in Liverpool Bay, the waters he had fought to keep safe. Admiral Sir Max Horton's funeral speech captured Walker's legacy. Horton said, "In the days when the waters had nearly overwhelmed us, our brother, believing in the creative power within men, set himself to defeat the enemy's malice. In our hour of need he was a sturdy protector of those who traveled the seas for us. His heart and mind stretched to the limit, wearing out his body even unto death." By the end of the war, the full record was clear. Captain Walker's commands destroyed 20 German U-boats between December 1941 and July 1944. HMS Starling took part in 14 confirmed kills, earning recognition from Guinness World Records as the most successful anti-submarine ship ever built. The second support group's total reached 22 to 23 U-boats, making it the most successful anti-submarine unit of the entire conflict. Post-war confirmation came from many directions. The Admiralty's Official Report declared, "Captain Walker, more than any other, won the Battle of the Atlantic. His methods had remarkable success and more than any other factor gave the Royal Navy superiority. His tactical ideas became standard across the fleet: the creeping attack, the blaster attack, the fierce hunter-killer mindset all spread through escort forces. His use of the general chase signal placed him beside the Royal Navy's most aggressive fighting commanders." Walker received Zignicht honors in life and after. His Distinguished Service Order with 3 bars, essentially Fordsos, is extremely rare. He became a companion of the Order of the Bath. Had he lived, he would have been made Knight Commander of the Bath and promoted to flag rank. The statue at Liverpool Pier Head, unveiled by His Royal Highness Prince Philip on October 16, 1998, honors his achievement. HMS Starling ship's bell, given to Bootle Town Hall in 1964, is rung to open each council meeting. Yet, compared with other major naval figures like Mountbatten, Cunningham, or Ramsay, Walker remains surprisingly little known to the public. Several reasons explain this. Walker died before war's end, missing the celebrations and the moment when wartime heroes were set in public memory. Anti-submarine warfare, fought in fog and darkness against unseen enemies, lacked the dramatic appeal of air battles or tank fights. His operations were often classified, limiting coverage at the time. There was no single spectacular moment, no Bismarck chase to seize public imagination. The Battle of the Atlantic was, in Churchill's words, the only thing that truly frightened him during the war. Britain's survival depended on Atlantic convoys. Germany's best hope of victory was cutting those supply lines. By March 1943, U-boats were sinking ships faster than Allied shipyards could replace them. Captain Frederic John Walker reversed that tide. His 20 U-boats destroyed made up about 2.5% of all U-boats lost in the entire war, achieved by one commander with only a few ships. His February 1944 patrol alone killed or captured 301 German submariners. His methods turned convoy protection into aggressive submarine destruction. The human price way is total. Walker worked himself to death at 48, his body and mind worn down by years of relentless operations. His son Timothy had already been lost in HMS Parthian, but when he was buried at sea in Liverpool Bay on July 11, 1944, the waters that once endangered Britain were now safe. The numbers tell the story. HMS Starling, 14 to 15 U-boats. Walker's commands, 20 U-boats. Second support group, 22 to 23 U-boats. The most successful anti-submarine ship commander and unit of the whole war, all the result of one man. Walker's signature tune, "A Hunting We Will Go," played over Starling's tannoy whenever she entered or left port. It captured his belief perfectly: not defense but attack, not mere protection but destruction. Not survival, but victory. In the deadliest, longest campaign of World War II, no one hunted more effectively than Captain Johnny Walker. July 9, 1944. A 48-year-old captain died in a hospital bed at Seaforth, his body broken by exhaustion, his mind consumed by the hunt. He never lived to see Germany surrender, never watched convoys cross the Atlantic unhindered, never knew historians would credit him more than any other man with winning the battle that saved Britain. The Royal Navy buried him at sea in Liverpool Bay, the waters he fought to keep open. His coffin slipped from HMS Hesperus and sank beneath waves that had nearly overwhelmed the nation. The Canadian Navy provided the honor guard because his own ships were already at sea. But his victory was now certain. Walker's tactics had shattered the U-boat threat. His February 1944 patrol had proved what could be done: 6 U-boats in 19 days, 3 in 15 hours. The man who destroyed more U-boats than any commander in history never saw the triumph he made possible. He died at 48, exhausted, his son gone, his body consumed by war. That is what British innovation looks like when Survival leaves no other choice.